Welcome back for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these, but I'm trying to get back on a more semi-regular schedule, and some of these shows may be coming back at a little bit more of an irregular kind of rhythm, maybe every other week or so, and they might be a little shorter than you might be used to, but I figure something is better than nothing. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. And you keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And as well as go check out my toy channel, Toy Informer. The link is down below. And for those of you who have not tried Whatnot, now is your chance. Use my link down below and get yourselves a free $15 for trying it out. $15 free to do whatever you want and spend it with whomever you want. No strings attached. You help out the channel and you get yourself something nice. So you really don't got anything to lose by giving it a try if you haven't already. And if you are in the market for some supplies for your collectibles, make sure you use my link and use my code RENA10 over at BCW for all your bags, boards, your boxes, top loaders, whatever you're getting to keep your collectibles safe. Save yourself some money and just use the code that I got here for you. So with that all said, if you want to see this week's selection of Dollar Bin books, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro, and I will be right back. All right, so let's just get right into it. I'm going to keep a similar format to what you might be used to, and we'll just see how long the length of the show lasts based off of the four options that I got for you this time out. And we are going to start off on the side of comics. It's why we're all here, right? Everybody's reading comics, right? So for those of you who are reading, here's some fun stuff that ties in with the new books that came out this week that you can go and hunt for when you're out there digging this weekend. Starting off with the finale to Scarlet. Yes, this was a great run. This is a great little mini following. I liked it. Following Scarlet, you got the Arashikage clan, you got your ninjas, you had your Storm Shadow, and the character that's been throughout most of this series, and I'm kind of spotlighting her here in the final issue, just because it's been a while since I've done one of these, and now's the time to do so, is the character of Jinx, who you can see here. She's been kind of a co-pilot of a sort with Scarlet throughout much of this run since she went undercover. And yeah, Jinx has been around a while. I know you remember the little action figure, the little red ninja, one of the few female action figures that the G.I. Joe line had back in the day. But she's been represented in all the different runs going back to the IDW stuff here at Skybound and even the original Marvel run. And we're going to go back to the original Marvel run for her first appearance, which was in G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 59 that came out in May of 1987. So this also was like first Tunnel Rat and I think Outback as well in this issue, but we're focusing in on this character here, which is Jinx. No, she's not in her costume yet, but we're getting introduced to her here, and this would be her first appearance. So this is her right here, mixing it up, and you get to see her pretty cool tattoo, right? Anyway, this book has had some ups and downs over the years, but you could still find it relatively cheap. Yes, I'm saying dig in those cheap bins, whether they be dollar bins, $2 bins, discount boxes of any sort. That's what I'm telling you to dig, because even here online, you can see recent sales as cheap as 99 cents, $3.65, best offers on $7.50. So it's not an expensive book as far as recent sales go, and even the asking prices can be anywhere from $6 to $8 to $12. Because it does have multiple firsts, and a lot of these classic G.I. Joe Marvel books, if they're in good condition, can command a few bucks just for the nostalgia's sake alone. But here's the added extra of a few first appearances, including Jinx, who ties in, again, to stuff we're reading now. Speaking of stuff we're reading now, I've said it before, I'm not loving the current Amazing Spider-Man run, but I'm still slogging through it. And in this week's issue, yes, we have Tombstone. Yeah, we've talked about him in his first. He's had his ups and downs as well as far as his first appearance goes. But I believe another one we've already talked about, maybe even on this show before, but let's hit it up one more time because it's been a while, is his daughter. So his daughter, Janice Lincoln, has been playing a role throughout this current run. And you see her here as her father's chasing her down. This is her, Janice Lincoln, and she is actually the character of the Beetle, the newest and current form of the Beetle. Here, which is one of those old Spider-Man villains, but she's the current one. She as the Beetle first appeared in Captain America 607, which was all the way back in June 2010. So inside the guts of this, which also had those backup Nomad stories, we get introduced again to the female Beetle here. We don't get the full backstory or anything like that. This, if anything, could be considered maybe a cameo because she just kind of appears on this kind of splash page and doesn't really play much of a role throughout the rest of the issue. And we get a little bit more later on. But this is still her here, so we're not going to go through the semantics of what's a cameo, what's a first full, and all that. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not interested in those arguments. It's a waste of time. I mean, a character appears, the character appears. As long as you know what it is, you make your determination on what you want to spend for it. Don't let somebody else tell you what you should be buying. You buy what you want to buy with your own money. So just know what it is, and you make your own decision for why you're buying it. So with this book, here are the prices on it, so you can decide whether you want to pick this up or not. For the most part, you can find it for very, very cheap. I couldn't even find any individual sales for this book. So these sales I have represented here are all lots. So these are lots of this Brubaker run of Captain America, which was a great run, by the way. And you should be reading it if you haven't read it already. And you can see multiple issues here get for as cheap as $14, $1, $9. And again, those are lots of issues. So there's packages and runs, and you can get to read them because there's not even an individual sale here. So this is definitely dollar bin fodder. You'll find it buried in those boxes, and you can pick it up really cheap if you want it. If you wanted to buy it individually online, you're looking at $2.70, $4, $8. But even that $8 comes with free shipping. So at least $4 to $5 of it is the shipping cost. So you're still only paying $2 to $3 for the comic. So it is what it is. And it's a very cheap book. Now, the bulk of this week's show is going to focus in on this next issue. And we're going over to the DC side of things. We hit up the indies. We hit up a Marvel. Now we're going to go over to DC for a second and take a look at this Green Lantern Civil Corps special. We talked about this on TAC. We reviewed this on TAC. And I admit I felt lost when I read this issue. So much so I had to go back and do research just so I could do this show to talk about this because I had no idea what's going on. I still don't have myself completely up to date, but I got a better sense of where we're going and where we came from to get here now after I went back and did a little bit of digging. So Civil Corps Special #1 had a bunch of characters in it, a lot of Green Lanterns, a lot of old foes and familiar faces. Things kind of changed up. We're not going to go into too many spoilers per se, but let's just get into some of this stuff. So right off the bat, when opening this issue, I'm wondering what the heck is going on. Because again, I haven't been reading Green Lantern in a while. I'm like, why does John Stewart have a sister and why is she glowing and flying by his side? And I'm talking about Ellie flying right here. Turns out, as we all should know by now, I mean, Ellie Stewart passed away a long time ago. His sister has been long dead. Now, in this recent run of John Stewart's War Journal, it was Green Lantern War Journal, we get this story following mostly leading up to what we're doing in Green Lantern now. Like this series in particular is a starting off point for what this event seems to be or whatever this Civil Corps growing out of it is. So this would be required reading and stuff you could probably find out there for pretty cheap because I don't remember a lot of people fighting over these War Journal issues. But inside the guts of this, John Stewart, while visiting his mother, she seems to be going through some troubles you get in the older age, maybe a touch of dementia. She's not remembering that her daughter is no longer with them. John just can't handle not telling her again, I guess, that his sister has passed. So he, as a Green Lantern, does what he thinks he can do. And he creates a construct sister. And there she is. So he creates an Ellie just to kind of avoid that conversation, I guess, with his mother. Right or wrong, he did it. First time he did it was in this first issue right here. And he's like, boom, there she is. This first issue, again, this is a cover price or less type of book, and that's what I'm talking about here as far as digging goes. You could probably find it for half cover, maybe less, maybe in the dollar bins. Just go digging. There's multiple covers. I'm only going to show you the 8 covers when we do this because it's unimportant. There's multiple covers. You can do your due diligence and find the other covers for yourselves. But again, as you can see here, copies have sold recently for as cheap as $1 up to about $4, which is the cover price. It's a $3.99 book. So cover price or less is what we're talking about for this first construct of Ellie. And we might get back to this book again a little bit later, but that's what we're talking about first. Available copies, $280 and $350. So undercover are some asking prices out there. Now, this was the first time he did the construct of his sister, but in terms of chronologically, as the storyline goes, he does it again And he does it again in the 5th issue of that came out in January 2024. And this one has more of like it stays, like it sticks around because he gives this construction after he's fully back on board. He's got his ring. He's a Green Lantern once again. He's with the crew, etc. He makes this version of Ellie, and he's given her criteria what you do. Like, you're going to watch after my mom. You understand what you are. You understand who you are. She is born of him and his memories and his thoughts of his young, his sister. This character now continues to exist beyond this point, and kind of, I guess, where we're going is she kind of becomes her own. He started her off, with his memories and her, and just it's from him. It's not really his sister, but what he remembers is of his sister, and she kind of creates her own personality and starts making her own decisions from this point on, becoming a character in and of herself. So that's what we're talking about here. This happens in the 5th issue. Yes, she was created once before, but like I said, it's like the other construct. She kind of goes away, and then boom, he creates her again. So I would say this one is really the one that's kind of lingered around until now. I guess. I don't know. It's semantics, I suppose, but it is what it is. Point being, just give this stuff a read and try to make sense of it yourself, because it is a little convoluted and it is a little bit confusing, especially when we start getting into the Revenants and the Space Soul or whatever. There's a lot going on here. Point being, this book is also cover price or less. You can see here. I'm sorry. That's showing the old book prices. But just like the others, these War Journal books are like cover price or less, so you can find them. The next character that shows up in this book spun out of that Absolute Power series that, again, I just wasn't digging it. I'm just over Amanda Waller, so I was just kind of bored by this idea. And we had all the Amazo robots, etc. They're kind of stand-ins for the Justice League. And there was the Lantern version. And the Lantern version kind of turned on Waller during that series and kind of became, again, a character of their own. So it's got a similar kind of character arc as the construct Ellie when you think about it. But this is Jadestone. So becoming a Lantern for himself, this Amazo robot Lantern, Jadestone, shows up in the series to kind of help out. Now, here he is. He first appeared. There's Jadestone again, just to give you a sense. And he chooses life, just showing that kind of turn, I guess. But he first showed up in that free comic book day for Absolute Power. Now, when I say he shows up, this is a stretch, but it is what it is. Inside this free comic book day special edition, there is basically one panel here, and he is standing way back there with the other Amazo robots, the other Justice League Amazo robots. That's it. That's all you get. But, I mean, that's him. He's there. So there he is. First appearance, I guess. But again, you want to get more context, more into it, you got to go and get further issues down the line. Again, it's all semantics anyway. You know what you're buying. You buy it for your own reasons. This is a free comic book day book that many of us got for free. These days, you might find it stuck in dollar bins because that's what happens to a lot of old free comic book day books. They're no longer free and they start selling for $1 or $2.50, etc. Asking prices on this, $2.50, $1, etc. There's still plenty available. And yes, many times these first appearances that happen in free comic book day books don't really do all that well because of the availability. And of course, the free price kind of limits its upside. Now, there are, obviously there are exceptions to that rule. You look at things like Umbrella Academy because of it was harder to find. Not every shop ordered those types of things, but the Marvel and DCs that are for free comic book day, those generally get heavily ordered because that's what the bulk of their clientele want. They want the Marvel DC stuff. So they grab that. That said, we're going to move on from that character, Jadestone, moving on from him, and go to another Lantern. Another Lantern that shows up here inside the guts of this Civil Corps issue. And this is the character, I'm going to have a hard time saying his first name because I don't know if I can pronounce it. I'm just going to call him Shepard. Colin, maybe a weird, there's like a weird, like umlaut, little accent point there over that second A. I couldn't get my font thing to use it, but yeah, Callan Shepard, whatever. He first showed up here in the current Green Lantern run. So issue 1 of the new Green Lantern series that started last year in 2023, May of 2023 to be precise. Inside the guts of this book, we were introduced to this Lantern. This is the Lantern in the Dark, as he is also known or refers to himself. He, kind of comes from another universe and another timeline where he was kind of an understudy, I guess, a Guy Gardner from that other realm, other universe. Again, crazy convoluted stuff. I mean, we've got the Mazo robots, we've got constructed little sisters, and we've got lanterns in the dark coming from other universes and other timelines. Told you, it's a lot to get into, and I felt lost trying to read this issue on it. I had to go back. That's it. Here he is. Again, first appearing in that Green Lantern #1, which is one, again, you could find these out there. They're a cover price or less, most likely. It's probably on a shelf somewhere at a shop near you if you're interested. So $5 for some recent sales at that cover price. Well, actually, more than cover price. It's a $3.99 cover price. So $5 is actually at a premium. But there's copies listed for $3.99 to $4.99. Not a lot else going on with it. I mean, you can find it. Maybe you could find it for cheaper. That's the kind of point I'm saying when I'm going dig. Because you get that first appearance of the Lantern in the dark. Now, from here, we are also going to go into the bad guy side of things. And inside here, we have two villains we can go and kind of speak to. And it's going to get a little messy here as well. So I believe this came up. I don't remember where we talking about this. It might have been under the radar. It might have been the attack show. But we did talk about this bad guy here. This, like, it's a politician of sorts. We're dealing with from Thanagar, the Hawk people. You got the Lanterns involved and these people from Dura. This is Duras Tharos, if I'm saying his name right. Duras Tharos. He's been a bad guy hanging around for a little bit now. Not only in the Green Lantern side of things, but he actually first appeared over in Action Comics way back in 2021 in issue 1036. So inside this is when we're introduced to this. Again, it's like a politician of sorts, a premier governmental position with his race, the Duros. So yeah, the Lord Premier ends up being a bad guy. Here he is right here. But he first appears in this action book. And again, these aren't expensive books. These are ones you can find. Look, my comic shop had copies for $3 and $4. That sold. Copies available, $3, $3.90. And that's a $4.99 cover price. So those are all at a discount right now. Now, Duros, Tharos, or whatever, he is one of the baddies in this story. And not to ruin things, there is another one that kind of spills out who's, again, got a convoluted kind of history here. So I'm going to do my best to kind of catch you up on this. So we get introduced to Star Shroud. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Star Shroud is the other villain inside this. And it is like, and again, you're mixing in with like the Revenants with this, it's like, what's like infected light or something is when they're kind of referred to it. There's a lot of kind of like zombie creatures. It's not the Black Lanterns per se, where it was like a Dark Star ring. Again, there's still more I need to catch myself up on to really know what's going on, but I'm doing my best to try to give you some sense of what I'm talking about here. And Star Shroud, which is actually Varen, the Regent's son. So another, like, connected to, I guess, this Durin royal family. Varen was a Lantern who showed up first. Well, first, before we get to that, here he is as his current incarnation, which is as the Star Shroud, this feared abomination. They even call him an abomination. He first started out here again as Varen, as a Lantern, sort of. And he showed up in that War Journal that I mentioned earlier. So he is also first here in this Green Lantern War Journal 1. Like I said, you got to read this series to really understand what's going on with this current series, because a lot of things play out in this run. So in this first issue, he's showing up. He's saying, I got to see what's going on. He must have felt the creation of Ellie, and he's going in to check in on Stewart's mom, and Stewart's like, no go, and they throw down outside of his house, and he gets, kind of embarrassed. He tries to give in like right away. Next issue, we get introduced to like the darkness, the Revenant zombies like this. And there's like a Queen Revenant. There's this darker energy, and they're like zombie type creatures. And he gets taken in by this Queen Revenant with this darker energy, light power, whatever you want to call it. So here he goes. This is kind of the end of Varen as we know him here. So he kind of gets taken in. Now, this is him getting sucked into the Queen Revenant zombie face lady thing. This issue, again, it's covered. I mean, I didn't even bother showing you this. I mean, what's the point? $3, $4. You see it. It's cover price or less. There's copies available for $2 and $2.65. $2.10, $2.65. Well under cover. Cheap stuff. Like I'm saying, if you want to give this stuff a look for a lot. Get the whole run if you can, just so you can read it. Get yourself caught up, and maybe you can understand this better than I can, because it is confusing. I'll admit it. It's kind of confusing, because here we got Varen gets taken in by the Revenant zombies, and he gets like kind of turned into this zombie himself. In this next issue, we see him return. So in November of 2023, in issue 3, he comes rolling back in to get some revenge on Stewart and kind of infects John Stewart's arm, as you can see here, with this darker energy, this dark light, this infected light, I think as they call it. He's Variant the Radiant Dead at this point. This is here. And again, there he is. So he's like a zombified, half dead. It's like a Black Lantern, but it's not, as I understand it. But this book is, again, like the others. It's cover price or less, $4 to $5. Copies have sold for available copies, $3.40, $3.99. It's cover price and or less. See what you can find. And then from here, we're going to jump ahead through this series. This is issue 3. And while there were some other teases and things going on, we're going to hold off and say it's not until issue 10. So we're going to jump ahead to issue 10 here. It came out June of this year. Again, this series kind of leads right into this, what we're talking about here, this Civil Corps storyline that's starting off in the Green Lantern side of things. That it looks like John Stewart's going to be taking lead. And with his current casting, we're going to get that series with Hal and Stewart. I think he's getting a bigger profile, which is a good thing. John Stewart's getting a bigger profile in not only the comics, but in other media as well. But here we go. In issue 10, now we're getting kind of a return of our Varan character, but he's kind of transformed. He's become something else. He's become now this Star Shroud thing. He's talking about cloaking himself. He actually shows up to torment and terrorize John Stewart's mom. And he's got the zombie images. He's kind of doesn't really have a form. He's just kind of like, as you can see here, he's like a dark light type of thing, but he's something else. So this is now when he's taken this Star Shroud form, this abomination that comes back later on. Doesn't fully happen, I guess, until this issue. I guess this is when we could say it happening. And you can see Steele also helping out because Steele was helping Stewart like keep an eye on his mom. And we had both Steeles. We had John Steele and his daughter. Anyway, moving on. This issue here, which could be considered the first Star Shroud, I guess. $3 to $5. Again, $3.99 cover. It's a little under, a little over. You can go dig. Maybe you can go and find it for some, for cheaper. Copies available online. It's right around cover price, as you can see there. And it's just an interesting book. And if you want to catch up on all of this Green Lantern stuff, it is kind of interesting. I'm kind of curious now after digging into this. I have to go back and read more because I was speed reading a lot of stuff just to kind of get the basic gist. As you can see, I'm not an expert. I'm just giving you what I got from what I've gathered of doing this little bit of research to give you these first appearances and make some sense of it. And make some sense of who these characters are. And it's still a little confusing, but I mean, it's comics. Comics are always a little confusing sometimes. But it's worth the time to further investigate and read more stuff. So that's what I plan to do. So check out that War Journal run because I'm telling you, it leads right into what we're doing now. With that said, I got one more little book for you and one more little add-on. We're going to do TV shows here as a subcategory sometimes. And the TV show I'm going to be talking about is the new episode this week of The Penguin. So with that, yeah, we could have went back to the earlier episodes, and I almost did that. We could go to Sophia Falcone's first appearance, which you know is Long Halloween #6. Alberto in the first issue of Long Halloween. Some of those could be tough to find for $1, but it's still things you want to go dig for. Today, really, not. It wasn't so much character first appearances as much as an idea was introduced in this episode that seems kind of interesting. Something you can go back and kind of go dig for if you're interested. It's not a 1-for-1 match, but in this episode of The Penguin, we are introduced to this new revolutionary drug that the Sophia Falcone's now thinking they're going to be able to take over, and the Penguin's helping her, Oz is helping her, and they think this is what's going to give them control over Gotham. This is a drug they had, and in the TV show, it's based off of the mushrooms growing there in Arkham. They would give it to the inmates, etc. This is bliss. So this is what they're using. It's this thing that's growing on the mushrooms themselves. It's like an excretion or something. Makes this drug, whatever. But the idea of a bliss drug isn't new for this show. It actually goes back to an issue of Titans from 2010. It's a little bit different. I think this drug comes from like kids or something. It's a weird, convoluted, messed up kind of story. If you want to go and read it, but the idea of this bliss drug is first introduced here and talked about in this Titans issue. As you can see here, it's not a 1-for-1 thing. We've got these chemical plants, and it's also run by this dude Elijah, who is not in the Penguin series. So it's again not a 1-for-1 match, but it is bliss, and it is the first time we were introduced to it in the DC universe they're using it now on the show. But here it is. So with that said, you can find this book. Definitely dig it at $1, but I couldn't even find any individual sales recently. And then copies available are looking for $1.70 to $4. So it's a very cheap book. Something you can go and find. I'm not saying it's going to be worth anything or it should be worth anything. This is what makes comics fun to me, is when you can go and dig for books that tie into things that you're currently enjoying or reading or watching on television, seeing in the movie theaters, things popping up in the news, rumors we might hear. That's what I'm going to cover on this show. Just things that tie back to things going on in our pop culture comic book world right now, whether it be from things we're reading, like I said, things from the news and rumors, etc. I'll tie it back to some books I think we can all go and dig for if you want to have a little bit more or know a little bit more. So with that all said, hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully, you found this helpful. Hopefully you found this entertaining. And I'm going to try to do this as regularly as I can. Might be every other week. I don't know. It could be shorter than this. Could be longer than this. This week was a little long because all that Green Lantern stuff. There was a lot to get through with all those characters. So next week or next time out might not be as long, because I'm going to try to shoot for 4. Like 4 seems to be a good number for me. That's what I did for Chasing Ghosts. I'm going to try to do something similar here, because those 2 shows might trade time slots going forward. I know I did them both this week, but going forward, I might just do one or the other as time allows. So with that all said, check out my links below if you haven't already with Whatnot and the BCW stuff. Save yourself some money. Take the free money that I'm offering you and just give it a try. And with that all said, I'll see you all later with some more content. All right.